49ers jumping up 9 spots from 12 to 3, clearly in the quarterback market. The Dolphins with, I guess based on the move, a reinforcement of how they feel about Tua Tagovailoa. And then all of a sudden the Eagles, who were at 6, they jump back to 12. So Miami was able to jump back in to the top 6. This was, for about a 25, 30-minute period, this was sheer lunacy. This was incredible.
Yeah, no, it's the fun before the fun actually happens. We're in the middle of evaluating a lot of these players. Some of them didn't play. We talked about many times because of the pandemic. They opted out, and they didn't have any senior or last season tape because a lot of these guys weren't seniors. And so the only way we're going to know anything about them is by the pro days, including Zach Wilson or Trey Lance, who we saw a couple weeks ago. Zach Wilson was pro day today. But still, people think he played in a smaller conference. Let's see what he's all about. And so the fact that all this was happening today was, I think, coincidental, but it was interesting what's going on. I mean, obviously, the NCAA men's basketball tournament will take front and center as we get on with the show, BT. But right now, I take 2 things away. One, you already said, and that is Tua Tagovailoa is clearly the starter for the Miami Dolphins. And 2, the Philadelphia Eagles are going in all out for Jalen Hurts, right? They're not even thinking about moving up. They, in fact, move back, which means that they are trying to gain some assets and, put some more talent, I think, around Jalen Hurts. The other thing, the other X factor here is what happens with Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah. Is he now trade bait? Does he get moved to the New England Patriots, like a lot of people are saying, or does he stay put in a kind of Alex Smith type situation with the Kansas City Chiefs once they took Patrick Mahomes a couple of years ago? So there's a lot of things that still have to play out. But
no question.
The movement has already started, which is, I mean, we're a month away. This is pretty awesome, exciting if you're an NFL fan.
It really is. I mean, it was just the energy that just that this created was palpable. So next segment, by the way, we'll get into directly what this means for the Jets, who are sitting in a spot. If the Jets handle this well, if the Jets handle this right, there's no telling what they can. I mean, they very well might walk away with Zach Wilson, but if they decide to trade out, we'll get into this more extensively coming up next segment. As I said, they've got a multitude of things that they can do. I obviously agree on the Tua part. I said that. I'm less convinced about the Eagles staying at 12 or maybe not being in the quarterback market. There's nothing that precludes them from moving back up, maybe going Mac Jones, whatever. Trey Lance Foles, who knows? Garoppolo's future, to me, at least based on the tweets from Adam Schefter, and I'm going to take them at their word. They said that he's our guy. He's not going anywhere. He's our guy this year. And that kind of opens up that role that you just described, an Alex Smith, advisory role where you could still win with him, obviously.
Sucks for Alex Smith, though.
You mean for Garoppolo?
I mean, Garoppolo.
Yeah, it does a little bit. I'm sure he's not enthralled with this, I would imagine. But he's also heard a lot of the rumblings that, maybe they're going to trade for this guy, and maybe they're looking at that guy. I mean, there's been a little smoke around Jimmy G's name. If he pays attention to a modicum of the news, he can't be stunned by this. What I find interesting, though, because if you go up to 3, right, which they obviously did, Justin Fields' pro day is Tuesday, all right? You mentioned Trey Lance already had it. Mac Jones the other day, 50-50. You're not taking Mac Jones at number 3 anyway. I don't care what anybody says. He's not going number 3. If you view Lance as this incredible specimen that you need to smooth out, that's just too raw, and he's got a totally different athletic skill set than Mac Jones, you can probably justify reaching for that ceiling. Now, there's more of a bust factor with Lance, I would think, than Mac Jones. But I am a little surprised that the Niners made this kind of a move without eyes on Wilson, because this deal was done before Wilson threw today, and before Justin Fields throws Tuesday in Columbus.
Yeah,
a little surprised at that.
Well, a little, but here's the thing. I think they are interested in Trey Lance. I think this kind of confirms that Trey Lance is going to be a top 5 pick, because they're not making I'm sure they had the conversation. I know we said this on our Slack channel. You guys did that. They had this conversation. Picked up Jacksonville. They were like, just go scratch, get out of here. No, Jacksonville's not moving. Yep. They probably had this conversation with the New York Jets. Yep. The New York Jets are set in who they're likely taking, which means that they're going to take Zach Wilson. I mean, it could be Justin Fields, but I think it'll be Zach Wilson.
Or by the way, Teak, they're just holding out for a bigger trade from Carolina or somebody else. I mean, because the number, here's the one, and again, Jets more next segment, but you got to remember this. This is the important part about what Joe Douglas has right now. That even though it's only one slot back, although we saw with the Bears and with the Trubisky deal what one slot can represent, and it seems as if, based on another report from Schefter, that the Niners are cool with either Wilson or Fields or Lance, whomever is there at 3. If there's another team that wants to scoot up to number 2 and they don't like Fields or Lance, but they love Wilson, they would have to jump up to 2 to get that guy, which means the asking price soars past what the Niners gave up. That's very important in this entire equation.
Yeah, of course, and that gets a little convoluted to think about, but I hear what you're saying. You're absolutely right. But what this tells me, because Jimmy Garoppolo was not part of any package being moved, and you have John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers organization confirming or affirming that Jimmy Garoppolo is their man for next year, because they could move him. And there is literally no penalty to move him because there's such a small cap hit for him right now if it's a dead number. So, I mean, they could cut him and it wouldn't be a bad issue. But they know that they're committed to him. It tells me they're taking a project, someone who might not quite be polished enough to play on the professional level yet, like Pat Mahomes. You know, you loved Pat Mahomes' skill set when he was in college, but you didn't know how it would translate to the NFL, so you gave him a mentee year underneath Alex Smith. I think the 49ers are going to do the same thing with Jimmy Garoppolo and hope that they can move him, or if not cut him, after next season. Look, it's a callous business. You know, it sucks for Jimmy Garoppolo because it looks like he's not their future anymore after signing a $100 million deal a few years ago. But it's just the nature of the business. If they feel like you've hit your ceiling, they'll move on from you. And especially even now with quarterbacks, where you used to never see that, now we're seeing that with quarterbacks.
Yeah, and here's something else to consider. You look at, again, putting Lawrence in a totally separate spot. Trevor Lawrence goes first overall at Jacksonville. And imagine if that flipped, just for a second, entertain that thought. Like, imagine, I mean, I know that you don't get overly wrapped up in guys throwing in shorts, and I understand that. And you're right, because there's been very few guys who have had pro days where you're like, I mean, unless it's just a horrendous 40 time or the inability to do a cone drill like for a position guy or somebody who's grossly out of shape. Very few quarterbacks have just looked out of sorts because it's scripted, it's choreographed, there's great familiarity with the receivers, the patterns. But Zach Wilson, he looked incredible to me.
Just a pro day.
I understand that. But there are also people, and they do this for a living. You know, we talk sports for a living. You played football. They focus on football for a living. I don't know what Voices it was. It was on the NFL Network. I've got it up still. They were saying, you know what? It's unlikely, but the way Zach Wilson looks today and the tape that's out there, more importantly, you know, if you're going to approach this honestly, that you've got to, I'm talking for them, what they said, you've got to entertain the thought, at least have a cursory conversation of maybe taking Wilson over Lawrence.
I have 3 years of Trevor Lawrence on tape, including winning a national championship and handling some adversity and ups and downs with great acumen. So to me, it's the eye in the sky don't lie. You know, you can put on underwear and throw the ball around in the pre-prescribed workout at your home field with, you know, feeling comfortable. That's not football. That's Pascal and 7-on-7. That's not going to impress me enough to change my mind on a guy like Trevor Lawrence. I know that they have to say that because what happens if they're wrong? See, I told you it was a possibility type of thing. The clear-cut number one in this draft is Trevor Lawrence, regardless of position.
But by the way, what you talk about the tape, what about Zach Wilson's tape is not brilliant? It's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
It is what it is.
The guy threw 3 touchdowns, so 3 picks. Here's the thing, though. Aside from Lawrence, right, you can make the very easy case, and I understand there's a lot to sift through here. Wilson had some issues in college with surgeries, missed some time, played against weak comp for the most part, right?
Yeah. And by the way, Urban Meyer didn't even show up at the program.
No, I know, but there was a report. I don't know if it was Rappaport. I think Daniel Jeremiah. This also came out today. Daniel Jeremiah said, I think it was Jeremiah, and if I had that wrong, I apologize, and I'll make sure I get that right next break. I saw it quickly. Somebody of significance, like a respected football guy, said that Urban Meyer sent Zach Wilson a Jaguars playbook. I'm not making that up. It's interesting at the least. But the other guys, again, putting Lawrence in the more refined category for sure. I'm with you. Zach Wilson, weak comp, some injuries. Trey Lance, incredibly weak competition. And Justin Fields, a one-read guy who had some alarmingly bad moments, and you were in the house for two of them, the Big Ten Championship, where he made some really bad throws and decisions. There's a rawness to all three of these guys.
Yeah.
So look, nobody really knows what the Niners are thinking.
We said this yesterday, BT. Half of these guys are going to be a bust. They just are. Just the history tells us that. Statistics tell us that. Yeah. We don't want it to happen. We won a 1983 draft, right? 83 or 86?
83. Even that was overrated.
Agreed.
It really was. Todd Blackledge, a great pro.
Agreed. No.
Tony Eason, a great pro.
They were serviceable starters. They weren't like sitting on the bench by year 3. They were serviceable starters. And look, that's the upside. Like that's the top end of what you can expect from any. Let's put this in hyped up draft class, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but the reality is, a couple of them are not going to pan out. So we don't know who that's going to be. I don't think it'll be Trevor Lawrence, but it could be. I don't think it'll be Zach Wilson because he's looked so good and he's got a confidence about him. There's a really good article today in I think it was the Athletic, about like his journey and like where his mentality is. You know, forget the on-field skills stuff and the arm talent and all that nonsense. Just who he is as a player. Yep. It makes you feel confident about him not being overwhelmed by whatever stage he ends up on the next level. So, yeah, I mean, that's part of the evaluation that we often overlook. That often is more important, man. It really is. Like, how do you handle success and how do you handle whatever potential adversity is going to come your way? That's what I want to know, because you can build a good team around an above-average quarterback and still win. You're probably not going to win a Super Bowl, but you could still win if you have the right kind of mindset.
Let me get back to Garoppolo for a second. I get it. I told you what Schefter tweeted about the Niners, reinforcing or illuminating their confidence in Jimmy Garoppolo, and maybe they needed, put quotes around the word, they didn't really need to do it, but maybe they needed to do it just to kind of smooth over.
No, they needed to do it.
From a PR point of view, whatever. Yeah. But you know what? I mean, desperate people do very desperate things, and I know these tweets from the Bears, quarterback one, Andy Dalton. What if Matt Rule swings and misses? We all think he's going swinging for the fences for a quarterback. What if Matt Rule swings and misses down in Carolina? Let's not preclude the Niners, even though I know it's been asserted and what's out there. If somebody calls John Lynch and says, we'll give you this for Jimmy Garoppolo. See you, Jimmy, you're gone.
After the draft.
After the draft.
Yeah, of course.
You're gone.
Of course.
So let's not get too married to the notion that Jimmy G is definite. I think he's there, but you never know.
Yeah, and I think it also depends on who they end up drafting and how that draft pick looks early on, like when they have the mini camps and the OTAs, which is another issue, by the way, that at some point we'll get to. It's not a conversation for the day. It's down the line, probably after the draft. The NFLPA and their leadership, player leadership, doesn't want off-field workouts. Off-season workouts. They don't want them to happen anymore. They want it to exist exactly like it existed last year, because it saves them from traveling, it saves them from potential injury, and they're also demanding that there be COVID testing every day. And that costs a lot of money for these NFL teams. I don't think they're willing to do it. They're going to come to a little bit of a head, I think, on this offseason workout thing, which will penalize some of these young quarterbacks who need to get in and learn and be active with their teams right away.
All right, so Teague, that just came out of nowhere. That's obviously the lead. We'll get to the Jets' decisions, and for a young GM trying to cut his teeth, that's Joe Douglas. He's faced with. I mean, I don't want to say it's a career maker because he's so young, you can recover. But, I mean, it's certainly a career shaper. I mean, if you do this right, there's no question how you can elevate the Jets. If you bungle this, if you botch this, his Q rating is going to plummet. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell to be notified when we drop fresh content.